Wow. Okay. So was BB ever found? Is there an ending where you find out what happens to her? Because that's 2 without really, like, there's no follow-up with her. Wow. This was really good, though. I don't know if I can go through it again. Not tonight. Maybe one more time next week with different choices. It's an ACAB. Yeah, really cool game. I am going to consider this beaten, but I may come back to it next week. But now we're going to... I'm going to take a little break, and we're going to get Thirsty Suitors going, and I'm going to dive into that for a little while. I think I'm near the end, so we might actually beat Thirsty Suitors. So give me just a few, but I hope you all enjoyed this one. As always, you can see which games we have beaten on my stream and Three Bears Gaming the entire time we've been streaming, since 2008. So I'm going to add this on there because now I've beaten it twice. And also, don't forget to go vote for the next indie game. We're going to watch trailers right after this for the next indie game. I'm going to go add this game in here. That's 188 games beaten on 27 platforms. Okay, so this time was different. This time was different. Let me finish real quick. Let me write that in there. Okay. So this time I chose that revolutions are endless instead of require sacrifices. Let me take a screenshot of this. And I chose not to throw rocks during the protest. I chose Saeed as the mole. I chose to be cooperative while being interrogated. And I chose to save Ali over Hussein. So I literally did everything on this choice list different than the last playthrough. But there were choices that aren't on this list that were like other things. And I'm not sure exactly how much of that matters. But I at least did 2 completely different sets of choices, which makes me pretty happy. Yeah, very cool game. There's so much in this. I got 86 of these stories. I wonder how many there are in total. I'm not sure. I also have photos. And I guess I got all the photos? Oh, not those though. I got these. And I got those. And that's it. So I'm missing those on the bottom, those 10, maybe? Yeah, this is cool. Oh, and you can have different profiles. That's cool. I didn't even realize. Yeah, I like this game. I think it's a very important message, and it's not completely one-sided. It is kind of just showing what's happened and the story of apparently somebody real who was involved, Reza, and his family, and how they get wrapped up in the 1979 Iranian Revolution, which is not that dissimilar from what is going on now, not only in Iran, but in America. The parallels are so sobering. The parallels are sobering, you know. The prices are rising and the wages are low, and most people are struggling, and the ones who aren't seem disinterested, and the ones who are don't have enough power to really fight back in ways that aren't completely inconvenient and even fruitful sometimes. But I think this game is important because it's a piece of media that, unlike a movie or a book or a recording of some kind, it's interactive, obviously, but the choices and the attachments to characters and everything that happens, I mean, it's a great way to show this kind of thing and what's involved and what happens in war, what happens in conflict, what happens in protest, and what people will die for, what people will fight for, and is a tool to some extent in how to, help us see how to do that in our own situations, in our own timelines. But also, it doesn't end great for anyone involved, really, and I think that's just kind of the nature of it, I like this game. It's heavy, but the whole game itself is entertaining and informative, and I really like how you take pictures that are the actual picture that someone took in the day. They have old movie reels you can watch that are actual footage.
All the magazines are writing that when the reporters
cassettes that people were passing out around the time.
Iran, they witnessed Iran.
Lots of history about the 60s and the 70s and what was going on in Iran and how America butted in, essentially. And what else is new? And yeah, just really, really interesting game. Again, I mean, I can understand how someone might not be in the mood for this kind of thing, but what I would ask everyone to do is to realize how rare it is that you play a game that has this much true-to-life historical context, and also is quite possibly more relatable to exactly what's happening in America right now than any other video game I think I've ever played. I think this game is kind of a reminder that sometimes it has to get worse before it gets better. And the choices you make when it does get worse, it's not about it not happening. It's about it happening and what you're going to do about it and how you're going to get involved, which will, it's not even a may, which will have consequences. It seems that way so many times in history that, somebody or a group of people really have to, unfortunately, take the fall to make some radical change occur when the grip of a fascist government or the grip of a dictator or the grip of a religious cult or whatever has their grip so tight that the only way to make it budge, the only way to change things is to have to throw all of the people at the problem, and thus sacrificing many of them to make a better change. Hopefully you have to just have the vision and dream that it could happen, but
in the East.
But what we have to give up for that, is horrible, obviously, and changes us forever. And I think this game, more than anything, is about showing what happens when governments put the squeeze on the people don't have a clear leadership, the military gets involved, and when, to be honest, I mean, the root of it is if, I don't know, it's like if the government, if the powers that be, if the elite, if the rich would just give the people enough of what they need, instead of the constant struggle, instead of the strangling, instead of keeping the grip so tight, they might find that we would probably protest a lot less if we actually had the things we need and enough of them for everyone. But I wasn't here in the 70s, and I'm not from the Middle East, so I can only really say and understand so much. But I think this game does a great job of explaining it, showing lots of culture, books and coins and statues and
Taking Iran's history.
recordings. I mean, it's just like they put so much into this. I don't think I've ever played anything that was this educational while also still somehow being a decent video game. The quick time events are awesome. The choices really do feel deep, and there's lots of them. The narrative is great. The audio is great. The visuals are fine. They get the job done. And yeah, this game is like $20, but it is often on sale for $2. And I feel like, you know, if we can spend $70 on brand new games, you can spend $2 or even 20 on something that may ignite your passion to get involved with fighting what has always been happening in America, but what is really at full tilt right now in terms of oppression and fascism and right-wing garbage, regardless of party. But yeah, this game is a very well-made and important reminder that, again, when the people are not able to live their lives and work and have a balance and care for each other and, you know, grieve, when they're not allowed to grieve, when they're not allowed to have time to be sick, to take care of each other, to share community, all of that, it's like, then revolution is bound to happen. It's going to happen. Unless you keep the people happy. That's not a threat, it's a promise. It's the cycle. It's if you're going to lead and live a lavish life but let your people rot, then you must expect resistance to that. Expect it. And the hope is that the people who are also peasants, but comfy enough to not have to worry about things like this, will also join the fight. That's the hope. Because the real high up folks, the Bill Gates, the Mark Zuckerbergs, you know, the Jeff Bezos, they probably will never help because they don't literally have to. And there's so many of us that are like essentially under the umbrella of people that would just be fucked if we weren't able to access so many things in a short amount of time. So if you're under that umbrella of someone who cannot suddenly just quit their job and everything's fine, or for that matter never worked, then you are in this crowd of people. You are in this crowd of people who said we're not going to take it anymore. For that matter, you should be in this crowd of people. I want to be clear and say that this is a different story from a different time with different people, but so much of this is completely on par with what's happening now, even at a greater scale today. And I'm not going to focus, you know, on stuff like this all of the time, because I love my escapism. You know, Tuesday we had a great time. Last Friday we had a great time, right? But I do think things like this are really important. And it's so cool that they decided to make it in the form of a game that you can play on anything and experience it and absorb it and relate to it and let it inspire you and let it motivate you. So yeah, 1979 Revolution. I'm not gonna like rate things, but I think this is definitely worth a play for basically anybody. It does not take a ton of game skill to get good at this game, but there are sections that you will definitely replay a few times and do different things. And the quick time events are no joke. They really they want you to be on it. You know, it's not quite Shenmue, but but there's a couple sections that I'm like, I failed a couple times, or that something happened and then it's changed, and you just have to keep going. You know.